In order. Recommendation that the regular meeting be suspended and the committee of the whole meeting be convened. Moved by Councillor Randhawa, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, I'd like to call tonight's committee of the whole meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting of May 23rd, 2017 be adopted with late agenda item 3A, Carrie E. Roosevelt Community Park School regarding the bicycle for kids. Moved by Councillor Kinney, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, so we have a petition today, and just before you come up, just so afterwards, if there's any members of the public who'd like to come and speak to council on any topic of their choice, they may do so. But we're first going to hear from Ms. Yee, so please come forward and hit the little green button on the mic there. Welcome. That's correct.
Hello.
Awesome. You can actually have a seat if you like.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Carrie, and I work at Roosevelt Park Elementary School. Last year, we participated in Bike to Work and School Week, and we are the winning team. I'm very happy to say. And you can see here that we rode the most kilometers of all the teams in Prince Rupert. So I'm organizing the team again this year, and we've had some really great support from the community. Safeway is donating a sheet cake. The RCMP is coming on Monday to give a small talk of road sense and bicycle helmet safety. And during these talks with people in the community, Randy from Homesteaders, New and Used, they have a bike shop there. He kind of put a suggestion in my ear about finding bikes for donations, since he would be willing to donate his time to maintain or to repair these bikes with funds from Kayan Island Anti-Poverty Society. So in partnership with these two organizations, I'm coming to the city because I understand there are bikes that have been abandoned and collected at the city and are being held at Public Works. And hopefully the timing is perfect where you're thinking of what are we going to do with these bikes. And I would like to take donations of child-sized bikes or even adult-sized bikes, and I would distribute them to our middle school and high school students also.
Oh, great. Councillor Kinney and then Corinne.
Thank you for your presentation. How many bikes do you need, dear?
As minimum one. I don't really
You'll have to press the mic, sorry. The green button again every time someone presses a mic. Yeah, there you go.
I guess I would appreciate even a donation of one bike.
Ms. Bond?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. We actually do have an agreement with the Kayan Island Anti-Poverty Society where we actually do collect up a bunch of bikes, and when the time period passes where people don't come in and claim them, we actually do donate them. The ones that actually do look like they are salvageable, of course, because we don't want to be providing anybody with bikes that are unsafe. So we do have a program, and I would love to get in touch with you later on, and we can go ahead and provide you with a contact down at Public Works.
Awesome. Okay. Well, they'll... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If there's anyone in the community that wants to buy and donate a bike to you, they just get a hold of you through Roosevelt? Just put that out there in case.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much. Absolutely. That's great. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who'd like to come speak to council? Welcome.
Now I know how to get rid of those bikes that are sitting around my house. I have several points to make. I'm not going to discuss the Airport Society per se, but one of the benefits of having outside members on it was they could sort of be the watchdog for it. And so what's to prevent, we could also include City West, what's to prevent the board of directors giving themselves $1,000 per meeting salary or stipend or something like that. So one of the ways I thought about getting around that was to put the minutes, but a more would be the statement of would be the audit, So make those available. And I was thinking here at City Council, or even better would be to make them available at the library. So this would also be City West. City West used to come and do all their financial stuff here, but then they said we don't want to be telling our competition everything so respecting that. But we do notice that they made $1 million less last year than they did the previous year, and they saved the city a lot by donating money over the years, but they don't seem to be donating anything more, and we still have a very large loan that we're potentially paying off for. So I say somehow it's council's prerogative into how to do it. Was yes, you're in charge, but somehow you have to let the city, the public, get access to this and see what's going on without putting it out on the internet or something like that. I've also got this thing about building permits, and I noticed that Terrace puts their building permits in their minutes to so a monthly, and they put all their building permits listed online, or listed in their agenda package. We used to do a similar type thing. But what I'm finding is around here is that I suspect they had twice as many as we did. And I suspect part of that is that a lot of people, it would make economic sense, unless your insurance company or someone else says we need a building permit, just not to do it. Because then if they come around, okay, now we'll pay. So I'm saying we should somehow put a fine on there. And that's, again, City Council. And one of my friends, he said that it was more the building contractors that you really have to get it. They're usually the guys that are doing it. So somehow you can say, okay, this has been once, you didn't, it's usually the building contractor in the old days would come and get the thing because he knew exactly what was going to be done, etc. So I would say the building contractors, okay, you've got one strike against you, you've got two strikes, so somehow make sure that the building contractors, like it was in the old days, they say, geez, I got to go get a building permit if I'm going to do this because I see it needs to be done. Okay, thank you. There was other thing, going back to the City West and the paying the council members absurd salaries to attend one meeting. And I could have asked, but is that going to be on the statement of financial information? When it is, they're there because they have a membership on council. So I would think somehow it should be reflected in the statement of financial information at the end of the year. Council the mayor earned so much per this year, and then we could see, and maybe even break it out. City West paid him for attending these meetings. So that way the public can make sure that, that was, like I said, with the Airport Society, the whole point of it was to have some outside the circle that was attending it for the public. So any way that you can make that back again, so that you can allow the public to see it at a distance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Golden. There must be a misconception here because all us councillors sit on different boards and commissions, and we don't get one extra penny for sitting there. So if you're talking about council members sitting on committees and that and expecting to see some money showed that we're paid, we don't get paid a penny for sitting. Neither does the mayor.
Okay, so that would be good. I don't. How am I going to know that? And secondly, the city manager said I wasn't to ask city staff, so here's the only place I've got to ask it. But it would also be city staff. So if Kareem were sitting on those things, does that cover for her too? So if you were on City West, you don't get. If you're on the board of City West, you don't get paid at all?
Not on that board, so I don't know. Can't answer that question.
No, Ms. Baum is saying they don't get a stipend. The only stipend that anybody gets is if you're on the regional district, which myself and Councillor Kenny sit on, and it's like $11,000 or $12,000 a year stipend.
Like I said, I would have asked staff, but someone told me I couldn't talk to staff, so that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Anyone further? Okay, seeing none, motion to adjourn and to reconvene the regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. Item 2. Oh, wrong agenda. Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of May 23rd, 2017 be adopted with the addition of a late item 6C, BC Rural Dividend Program funding application for redesign Rupert project. Moved by Councillor Kinney, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3A, recommendation of the minutes of the special council meeting of May 8th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Renhawa, second by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 8th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Renhawa, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And item 3C, recommendation of the minutes of the special council meeting of May 16th, 2017 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next up we have a petition and delegation. It says Mr. Steve Milam, but I'm not seeing him in the audience, so Ms. Riley and Mr. Carlson, please come forward, and it's regarding the McClimate Park Trail upgrade. Our favorite group. Welcome back.
Thank you. For the Steve Milam stand-ins. So I'm Frances Riley, this is Sean Carlson. We're from the Cane Island Trail Enhancement and Recreation Society, or Cane Trails. So McClimate Park Trail is an existing scenic walking path that connects the Civic Centre to George Hales Way. It runs through a lush green space along Hayes Creek and provides access to Cow Bay and the Rushbrook Trail. It's an important section of the Cane Island Trail Network, as outlined in Cane Trail's Master Trail Plan, comprising the main loop trail. So what we're planning to do is proposing to do upgrade McClimate Trail, which is currently a mixture of gravel pathways, lots of muddy routes, boggy areas, and some really steep sections that are really only accessible by people on foot, and make it bike and wheelchair accessible. So widen the path, grade it so that you could have people of all abilities accessing the really cool nature out there. So to this end, Cane Trails has been approached by two stakeholder groups, Ducks Unlimited and the North Coast Skeena First Nations Stewardship Society, who are interested in rehabilitating Hayes Creek and upgrading the trail. So in order to do that, we've got the following steps. Secure funding for the trail upgrade design, which would be due May 31st, 2017, and that would be through the BC Rural Dividend Fund as well. Complete the trail upgrade design and secure council approval by November 30th of this year. Put the design to tender for the upgrade work next spring, and complete the trail upgrade work in the summer of fall 2018. So we respectfully request that a motion to council be made and passed by City Council to secure funding from the BC Rural Dividend Fund, which requires a resolution authorizing the submission to the fund, as well as a letter supporting this project through its duration.
Great, thank you. Questions from Council? Councillor Moreau, then run that way.
Thanks very much for your presentation, guys, and thanks very much for the great work that you're doing. I just had a question about, you said it was Ducks Unlimited and the First Nations Stewardship?
North Coast Skeena, they are working on a separate section, but the overall vision would be to rehabilitate the entire length. So in collaboration with the area that they're doing some planning work on, we would take on from where they finish and carry on up to George Hales Way as our scope of the project.
So just to clarify then, they're looking to do trail rehabilitation, but also kind of like the creek bed rehabilitation as well, and then you guys are going to build on the piece that they're funding by themselves?
Ours would be completely separate, but it would be an extension of the trail essentially that they would be, or the rehabilitation work that they would be doing in that section to provide salmon enhancement and other items as part of their project. So, but it would be a completely separate project to build on that aspect of connecting people with the outdoors.
Councillor Renhawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your presentation. How much is your total budget and your timeline?
The budget for engineering fees, we've estimated around engineering and environmental fees, we've estimated around $60,000. This is a preliminary estimate, but that's also the ask as part of the rural dividend fund. The construction or the capital budget will be determined once we have that design in place and understand what we're up against in terms of terrain, additional structures, if we have to replace any bridges, and that part of the project.
Yeah, like the deadline is May 31st, right? So you think we can get there by then?
With the engineering budget, absolutely. We've put that portion together for the application. It's for this particular project, we're not looking for funds for the actual capital portion of it. We'll seek out other sponsors or funders once we have the design in place. The main step we're trying to achieve here is getting a design in place that we can then put the ask out to future corporate sponsors or funding or grant applications in the future.
Councillor Cunningham and then Nish.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the work you're doing around town, especially with the Rushbrook Trail and now this one. I live on 8th East and I walk down here quite a bit, and it's a beautiful spot to walk, and if you're going to make it accessible to wheelchairs and things like that, that'll be phenomenal. And is there anyone else in town that you need letters from? Because I think Tourism Prince Rupert would gladly give you a letter as well, and there's other organizations that would probably help in any way they can.
To my knowledge, I believe for this application, it's just getting a motion through council in support of our application.
Basically the same thing. I grew up on 8th, spent a lot of time in this trail as a kid, and I think it's a great trail, and I would love to see it come back to, well, when they redid it quite a few years ago now, and it was a nice walking trail, and now it's getting, like you say, a little muddy, and lots of roots are getting exposed, and it would be great to see that more accessible for sure. I think a lot of people would definitely like to use it, so I definitely support this project.
Just before that, sorry, Ms. Bauman, we're looking at a similar arrangement as we have with the Rushbrook Trail then, with the city. Is that not the same? Okay. Okay. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Nish, or Kinney. All's in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome project, you guys, once again.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 6A, report from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2017 April variance.
Thank you. The April variance, now that the budget is passed, we have something to actually compare against and also look at comparables for the same time of year as last year. All departments are on target when compared to budget and the previous year, except, as is obvious, the roads budget, which is nearly $400,000 over last year at this time due to the snow and ice that occurred at the beginning of this quarter. Capital projects are now underway and payments will continue through the summer. And this report is just being provided for information purposes.
Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Murrow.
I just had one quick question just about timing of community grants, because I noticed that there's still about $220,000 left for community grants. So I was wondering, can you just walk me through, just for information on kind of how you guys kind of manage the cash flow in terms of distributing those community grants?
Generally, most of the community organizations actually want all of it right up front. Not all of them need it right away. So as we're contacted, if they don't get it right away, if they don't express a need, then we just hold on to it with the idea that they will get it. So.
Other questions? Okay, motion to receive this report for information purposes, moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Kinney. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next up, report from the CFO regarding the MI service provider agreement for Tourism Prince Rupert.
Thank you. It's my show tonight, I guess. I got the next one too. So under our policy with the Municipal Insurance Authority, certain organizations that provide a service for the city can be covered as additional insured organizations. So in order to provide tourism with insurance coverage under our Municipal Insurance Authority policy, like we do for organizations like special events, Council must approve the service provider agreement attached to the report. The additional cost is $250, which tourism will repay to the city. The reason this is being requested now is so tourism can provide mobile info services on Prince Rupert Port Authority property and at community events like CFest. So they're going out to some of the tourists instead of just staying stationary in the Visitor Information Center at Atlan Terminal.
Any questions? Okay. The motion is to approve the service provider agreement between the City of Prince Rupert and Tourism Prince Rupert for the purpose of liability insurance coverage by the Municipal Insurance Association. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Morrow. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item C, report from the CFO regarding the BC Rural Dividend Program for Redesign Rupert.
And this one is last year the city was awarded a grant under the BC Rural Dividend Program in support of the Redesign Rupert project, which is a part of the overall Hayes 2.0 initiative. Another intake of applications is currently in process, and the city would also like to apply for another rural dividend, much like the previous presenters, and we would like to apply for it to help support the continuation of Rupert Redesign. As part of the application, Council must pass a resolution by the application deadline, which is May 31st, 2017.
Great. Are you moving that? Yeah. Oh, moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion?
Yeah, so what's the continuation? Like we already done 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue. So what's the next to be doing for the redesign thing?
He's saying within the program we've done the downtown redesigns. Right?
Waterfront we done already, right?
Okay.
So what's the next we looking for?
Well, at the launch that happened in October, there was a number of some themes had emerged basically through community consultation previous to the launch. And during the launch, we had a number of tables where people could come and actually discuss many of the community assets, identification of what is great about Prince Rupert and what we would like to continue to see in Prince Rupert throughout an economic boom potentially. Out of those, at that launch, basically, there was a number of action groups that were created based on a lot of volunteers that came forward and said that these things were important to them. And this whole idea is to try and continue creating a resilient community in the face of change and to keep much of the things that are unique about Prince Rupert that people that live here truly find endearing and treasure. So there's a number of action groups that are actually continuing right now, and they have a number of projects that are ongoing, and so this is going to be a continuation of community engagement for the next couple of years and facilitating that conversation.
And at a later date, we could schedule an update for council from the redesign coordinators. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next up we have 2 letters of correspondence for action, both from the North Coast Immigrant and Multicultural Services Society. First is a recommendation that Council proclaim June 1st, 2017 as International Day in the City of Prince Rupert. Moved by Councillor Ranhawa, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And 7B, same organization, recommendation that Council proclaim June 15th, 2017 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the City of Prince Rupert. Moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Ranhawa. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, moving on to 9A, report from the corporate administrator regarding the park dedication removal and disposal bylaw number 3379/2015. Mr. Manager, do you have anything to report there, or just to...
Nothing new, Your Worship. This is just the adoption of the AAP, or the alternative approval process, for the piece of land. It strictly means that the city can have it sit in parkland, but it can be rezoned in future time for other uses.
Right. Okay, recommendation, so moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Niche. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, next up, 11A, report from Councillor Moreau regarding council meetings. Mr. Moreau.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. If you guys remember last meeting, I gave notice of motion, which is attached here on the agenda. A fair question I got afterwards on this motion about an in-camera communications policy was why now? And I mean, the quick answer to that is I wanted to be proactive. I think that given the amount of closed meetings that we've had, people rightfully have questions for us, and more often than not, we can't actually legally give answers. So essentially, the motion, the way that I've designed it, essentially it's just to ask staff to develop an in-camera communications policy to come back to us with, but also to develop a policy keeping in mind the recommended best practices of the ombudsperson, who actually released a report. So I've incorporated those 10 points. 6 of those 10 points the City of Prince Rupert's already doing. The other 4, from my perspective, it accounts for some of those. It does more than just the legislative minimum, is the way that I'll say it. I think we all learned in the course of our governance training that the 3 L's of an in-camera meeting is land, legal, and labor. And obviously, the City of Prince Rupert's unique. Our circumstance is unique, whether that's Watson Island or liquefied natural gas development. There's just so many land and legal issues that we deal with on a regular basis. And so really, the nature of our role as elected officials, I think we all know that sometimes perception can become reality. And so that's why I want to be proactive on this, and I want to ensure that the public has faith that we're conducting closed meetings only as necessary, but also that when it comes to reporting, this is kind of the bigger piece, is that we do more than just what the legislative minimum is, so people know that we're being proactive in our disclosure. So that's basically my presentation. I think it's in our best interest as elected officials, but also I think it's in the City of Prince Rupert's best interest that we can answer some of those questions that people have as quickly as we can and release as much information that doesn't harm the interest of the municipality. So if you guys have any questions, I'm willing to take them.
Council? No. Any other discussion? Yeah, well, I'll echo what Councillor Moore was saying. I think absolutely we don't necessarily want to be in a position where we're always having closed meetings, so to speak. But we do have some legal challenges with Watson Island in particular, which requires confidential meetings. And so it's just part of the role that we have here at the City of Prince Rupert. It's unique to us. Whether there's negotiations going on or there's labor issues, these are things that, standard practice that communities have to have in closed meetings. And, at one time or another, when things are getting resolved with Watson, I'm certain there will be a book written on the saga of Watson Island at one point in time. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, we're doing what we can within our jurisdiction, and I do agree that we can communicate much more effectively as our best of our ability to make sure that we're putting as much as we possibly can to the public, and so that everybody feels confident that we are managing this community's affairs within our legal boundaries. And I do commend you for putting this forward, because I do think being proactive is a good thing, and making sure people understand where we're at as a council. Okay, so a motion to approve, moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Niche. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. I have 2 items to report and then to council afterwards. So number one is the Transition Prince Rupert made an application to the BCAA Play Here contest, which is a BC-wide contest through BCAA to award a community with $100,000 prize for a park or play space that needs to be revitalized. The McKay Street Park actually made the finalists today. And so we are now in competition with 10 other communities across BC for this initiative. And if we win, we will get $100,000. And so what is necessary now is between now and June 18th is members of the public need to vote online for the McKay Street Park once a day, and every person can vote 4 times per day for the project through their Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, or Google account, and their email. So every person actually has 4 votes a day rather than just 1 vote a day. So you're allowed to actually use all your accounts to vote. And so the more votes we get, and we're competing with places down south, so obviously our population is not as big. So I've been reaching out to other communities across the north, seeing if we can rally more support as a northern community to say, hey, let's get together. It's going to be a big challenge, but it's good news that we made the finalists, and I just wanted to report that out. Any comments? Okay, next up, Councillor Niche and I, along with the city manager, are off to Ottawa next week. Only Councillor Niche and I, because other council members had other priorities and their own work schedules and things like that, so they couldn't be accommodated. Otherwise, I know more members of council would be attending. But we're going to the FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference. We're using that as a twofold. The FCM changes locations every year. It just happens to be in Ottawa, so we're taking the opportunity to not only attend the conference, which is similar to the UBCM, but nationally, but we also have lined up minister meetings with the Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Natural Resources, Foreign Affairs Ministry, Ministry of Trade, as well as the Ministry of Transportation. We'll also be meeting with members in the Prime Minister's office as well, mainly to discuss a variety of infrastructure issues that the city has, port-related growing pains, I guess you could say, that we're having as a community, where we need more support federally to help the community grow as a community, and to discuss some strategies on how we can help enable the Gateway Vision that the federal government has enabled in Prince Rupert, as well as to continually to engage with them, because it's been fruitful for us. For example, we've gotten grants for our dam and things like that. That federal government plays a large role in those. And so when it comes to grants and bringing in infrastructure money, it's very important to stay on the radar for this entity. And so we're looking to keep the presence there and have those meetings. And I'm looking forward to a good discussion with all those ministries. Councillor Cunningham?
Unfortunately, I would like to have gone on this trip. I think it's a very important trip. I am glad that we're being represented. The meetings you're going to be going to are going to be with some very significant ministers, and like a lot of the meetings you've had in the past, and we've seen fruition with different grants come through in that, unless we're front and center with these people and actually seek them out sometimes, we're just another city in the big picture with their hand out looking for stuff. And when you can get there and actually get a few minutes of their time and let them know how important Prince Rupert is to the economy of Canada as a gateway to the Pacific and how much this port needs to support the town and the country needs to support the town through different methods. It's a message we got to get out, and I fully support this trip. I think it's going to be a very good and significant trip.
The other thing, thanks for that, Councillor Cunningham, that I'll add is we'll be meeting as well with the U.S. Embassy to discuss the ferry issue, because we have a continual issue with that, and we're going to continually keep that on the radar. So we'll be meeting with them, which is another topic with the Foreign Affairs Ministry as well. And I had one more point. Oh yeah, so we're also meeting with members from the FCM themselves. So the federal government is actually going to be transferring a variety of dollars to the FCM to disperse to communities across Canada. And so a lot of the infrastructure funding or green initiatives programs or things like that are actually going to be coming through the FCM. And so we'll be we'll be discussing, meeting with various people within FCM to discuss our needs as well as what some of the program availability is with them. So it's going to be a very tight, action-packed, meeting-oriented trip, but it's all the meetings are lined up, and I'm looking forward to getting those discussions underway.
Good.
Any reports from Council? Councillor Kennion?
What a surprise. Two things. One, now that we've passed the one about closed meetings, I've brought this topic up numerous times before, and it seems to go nowhere, although we get, yes, we should do that. I would like to see the department heads come before council and give us a report on progress of projects and projects that are in the future. And I would also like that to include the RCMP giving a monthly or quarterly report. They indicated they're more than willing to do this, and other communities do that. And also our fire department. And, you know, from there we can branch out to the airport and other places. Just let the public know what's going on. Like Mr. Golden said, you know, they'd like to know what's going on in that, and I think it's very important. And this is a venue that gets reported in many ways, whether it's social media, the newspaper, or people that watch on TV. And I think it's very important to our public, the residents of this town, that they know what we're doing. And I've asked about this several times, and it's, you know, so far I haven't seen it happen. So if we have to go the way of Councillor Moreau's resolution, I'm more than willing to do that. But I just think it's something that we owe the public to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. In fact, yeah, you're reminding me now that came up before, and I think sometimes it's just we get so busy around here you kind of forget to enable those things. So thanks for bringing it up again, and I think we could work out some regular reporting for sure.
And one other thing. I know I've beat this drum also, but it's we've got a couple of very important golf tournaments coming up, and there's one particular residence on the way to the golf course as you drive in. It's the first thing you see if you're coming into Prince Rupert to play in a golf tournament, not from out of town. Or now we're getting people coming off the cruise ships going to play golf in that. And, you know, we've got redesign Prince Rupert and that, and then you see a few places that just look like they're a combination garbage dump, you know, auto wrecker and things like this, and they're front and center in some of our attractions in the city. And I really think we should start looking at doing something with them, because the good weather hopefully is here. This is just to water the plants before the sun comes out. But there's going to be a lot of people golfing and things like that, and I think there's a whole area there that should be cleaned up, or letters sent to people and say, look, you know, start looking after the premises.
Great. Other reports from council? I just forgot actually one last one that I have to make here, just about my, I was in Vancouver last week at the Renewable Cities Conference. And it was a conference where actually leaders from all around the world, from Rio de Janeiro to Germany to Japan to everywhere, met in Vancouver. And it was a series of essentially workshop environments, not a traditional conference where you're kind of listening to people speak. It was more in-house action-oriented things on what cities can do to become, you know, essentially 100% renewable moving forward into the future. And, you know, as a rural community, you know, where we have dams and roads to fix and things like that, often, you know, looking at renewable energy can be almost seen as a side tangent from what the priorities are. However, what I did learn after meeting with many people there is that there's, in Canada and particularly through the FCM actually has a variety of different green funds now available for pilot projects to get renewable energy up, or local food, or things like that. So, you know, I learned quite a lot there on what other communities are doing. There's, you know, at a global stage, this is certainly front and center, this topic. I'd love to enable us to become more leaders in this world. As our Mr. Seidemann was at the last meeting reporting to us about our community energy plan. And so the drafts of the 2030 Sustainable City Policies are going to come out to council here shortly. And then what I'd like to do from that point is, if council deems the policies in draft to be suitable, to bring it to the public, because I think in a topic like this, it definitely requires public engagement. It requires people to get involved around this topic because there's so many things that could happen, whether it's electric vehicles or wind turbines or tidal energy or local food or community gardens or things like that. What I learned at this conference, it doesn't necessarily have to be the city itself leading the way, and that we can help support people and the community and through our redesign process to get people taking action to help enable a vision like that. And so it's something I'm very passionate about, and it got me really jazzed up again about the topic, especially meeting, the mayor of Rio de Janeiro was there, and had a brief conversation, and, amazing things that are going on, and how to tackle this problem while you're tackling big infrastructure problems, and, lots of innovation happening globally. So going to stay tied to that network, and I made many contacts and see if we can draw in some global support around that. But and it's all about finding extra money somewhere else to help us. And just wanted to report out that it was a very fruitful trip and met many contacts there.
Thanks for your report, Mr. Mayor. Seafest just on the corner. I'm wondering, if you can update on the waterfront side this year. So what community can expect on that side?
Absolutely. So we've been in consistent negotiations with CN around the fence, and obviously it's something that the community, it's certainly a negative impact to the community. There's no doubt about it. We feel that that beach should be a public access beach, that it should be remediated, it should be used for public use, and it's going to be a difficult road to negotiate CN into a position where they would see it that way. And so in the immediate term, the fence is not coming down for Seafest, which we have mentioned to them is where the Quick and Daring is usually launched from. And within, I think this is the 39th annual Seafest or 40th? 39th. So with first time in 39 years, this fence is going to block off access. It's something I think the community needs to express their concerns to CN. And they need to help us make the message known to CN that this is a community issue, that that is the last beach you can access in this community without a fence around it. And now there is a fence there. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be I believe it's a barge will be brought into the lightering dock where the Quick and Daring will be launched from there. That's happened before in the past. So the Quick and Daring will be able to continue. However, the longer term plan here is to continue to negotiate with CN. It's something we're never going to let up on. Actually, Councillor Nish and I will be meeting with senior executives of CN at the FCM next week in Ottawa. We're bringing this straight to the top so that they can become aware, especially since CN's motto this year is partnering with your neighbors. And so I think that's a good model for us to bring to Ottawa, that there's a solution that can be had here. I really don't see how the solution can't be had. Remediation's been done before. The beach is already fenced off against the track, so it's not a public safety issue that way. And by partnering, we could easily have that be a well-developed public access beach. And it's something I'm going to continually fight for. I know Council wants to see the same, unless anybody thinks differently there. And we'll bring this issue to CN next week and see continually to keep progress on that. So that's where that's at. Anything else? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Renhala, second by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.